I think that the Bitcoin proponents, I worry, ask it to do too much.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Why?
we've sort of put too much on Bitcoin's shoulders, right? I think the end of competing with fiat money, sort of that as an end, that as a goal, is a worthy enough goal for what that can accomplish for human flourishing and for economic freedom and for autonomy and for even economic prosperity. And keeping, central governments in check with respect to, Federal Reserve in the United States, et cetera, in check with respect to behaviors that otherwise create I think a form of hubris of our own. But I think that, sometimes what I hear from Bitcoiners, is that a term you use? Like Bitcoiners? Yeah. Is sort of the belief that, like, when I'm talking about, the cultural challenges from ESG to challenges in American culture to these victimhood narratives, is Bitcoin is the answer. Decentralization is the answer.
Yeah, Bitcoin solves this.
Bitcoin solves this. And I think that that's asking too much of a currency. I mean, at the end of the day, we're creating a new form of paper, right? It's a new form of paper that competes with the old forms of paper, but gold is still paper. Bitcoin is still paper. At the end, maybe you don't agree with that, but I think that at the end of the day, these are just different forms of paper that compete with one another. And I think that the idea that that's somehow going to solve challenges that are fundamentally cultural in nature makes a bit of an error in conflating cultural or normative challenges with technocratic ones. Yeah. And I think we got to be careful about that.
So what's interesting, you're probably talking to the best and worst person about these, because on some aspects, I think that my views align and would be completely 100% agreed upon with almost any Bitcoiner you would talk to. So many of the things around decentralization, around competition with fiat centralized currencies, like all of that stuff. Yeah. I think I'm in line with and understand and agree with. The part that I think around Bitcoin solves this, what the Bitcoiner argument would be is that many of societal problems that we face are all traced back to the corruption of money. So if you basically take a first principles approach, right, the argument would be, why is there an obesity problem in America? Well, you can trace it back through the food system, through, corporate greed, through all this stuff. And like, you eventually just get to like, there's a corruption of money. And like, if you solve the corruption of money, then eventually you can solve that problem. Right. Yeah. And so like, I see that argument. Yeah. Right. And I am sympathetic to that argument. I actually, in fact, would like it to be that simple.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if only it were.
But it's a weird thing, and where maybe I have views that maybe some Bitcoiners don't agree with, is that like theoretically that is true. In reality, there's other things. There's additional steps, and maybe this is kind of what you're getting at, which is like, yes, a first principle solution to that problem is fix the money, right? So fix the money, fix the world is kind of the talk track.
The mantra. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
and for the most part, like actually, like I do think the corruption of money has like immense negative impacts on all sorts of, crazy parts of society that don't seem connected, but they are. But Bitcoin alone, I don't think is enough to solve some of these problems, because you need other solutions as well.
Right. And am I wrong, or do you get the sense that a lot of Bitcoiners kind of believe it is a little bit of like a panacea to
it's just a theoretical it's a theoretical belief that if you simply solve the corruption of money, the cascading impact is positive.
So here's where I am. I believe the corruption of money is the source of a lot of problems. Actually, my latest book does talk extensively about this, even in the modern American context. However, I don't believe it's responsible for all of our problems. And I think that there's a different problem that I'm focused on, that I focused on in my first book, which is that I also think there's a different problem going on in our country, in our modern contemporary culture right now. We are hungry. We're so hungry for a cause. We're all so hungry for purpose and meaning and identity and belonging, that the kinds of things, and by the way, we're living in a moment where the sorts of things that used to fill that hunger for purpose and meaning and identity, like the F word, faith, patriotism, national identity, hard work, family, whatever it might have been. I mean, those things are undoubtedly receding in modern life. And so my theory of the case is that there's a black hole of identity in our generation, in our American moment. And that's what allows the isms to fill the void. Wokeism, scientism, which is different from science, right? It's a belief, unquestioning belief in authority. But I worry that actually, if we miss that reality and just put it all in the corruption of money, and there's other views I have too of other fundamental social conundrums. One of which is the corruption of money, but there are others too. That if we just pin it all to the corruption of money, Bitcoin becomes a new ism, and Bitcoinism, just like wokeism or scientism or whatever, is going to fill that void of hunger and purpose and meaning and identity and sense for belonging that is asking too much of a currency. That's not what a currency was supposed to do. Currency is supposed to fix the corruption of money by competing in the marketplaces for currencies. That's all good. I'm like whole hogging on that. But I think that where we sometimes, I don't think we as though I feel like a newcomer, but a part of the community anyway. But where we sometimes, might veer a little bit is expecting too much out of it by thinking that that's going to solve problems that are fundamentally normative or moral or cultural in nature, and in the process may actually recreate some of the same cultural failures that led to the ESG informed world, or that led it to the DEI influenced culture, or whatever it is. Yeah. That Bitcoinism becomes a new substitute secular religion. That the thing we love about it is the fact that it's not a religion; it's just a rational path to autonomy